It's probably live now. No, it's
So,
not.
what do you mean?
3, 2, 1 now. 3, 2, 1 now.
Pepsi Max.
5, 3, 2,
All right, let's see if we're going. I hope
should be now. It's changed the screen, so
Screen has changed.
we've done this enough times that now I know
We're live.
I can sense it.
Oh, it was live when I said Pepsi Max. That's good.
Oh yes, I can see it.
A free endorsement.
Here we go. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
I have done caps lock. Perfect. All right, we'll just let a few people trickle in and chill out for a minute. I've been painting tennis balls.
What, just randomly, or?
Yeah, I chopped it in half and painted it because the voices said so.
Right.
No, we're working on some props. We're doing some stuff. I got a bit of a CCTV camera.
Ah, okay.
A bit more of a CCTV camera. Maybe.
I'm getting a kind of a Joseph Fritzl vibe so far. Is that, are you doing that?
Get on there. Get on there. Yeah, just doing bass layers at the minute, but we'll get there.
Bass.
Is this for new video stuff, is it?
Videos and props. I want to get it on a microphone stand at some point and have a big eyeball poking out of a CCTV camera. See what we can do with that. I wonder if we could actually fit a little camera in there and record our sets through the camera. That'd be pretty wild.
Well, yeah, you should be able to, yeah.
He does one of his,
Yeah,
you know,
I've
his
got
little
like
like pen ones. You know, they have
Yeah,
on,
I've got like a
on
head
countdown.
I've got funnily enough, it gives a really weird perspective. I've got a really cheap endoscope for my mobile phone. With a light on the end of it as well. It's really, I must stress, it was nothing surreptitious. It was in a professional, in a professional capacity. It's got a magnet on the end as well. It's really useful for picking things up in closed. I've said enough.
My brain went straight to pulling toy cars.
It'd be great.
Oh.
No, getting rings out the sink. Getting rings out the sink. That's what
Rings
it's
out
for.
the sink.
That's exactly, going through keyholes. Yeah, I've said enough.
Hell yeah. Nice, man.
Find this. Find the screws under the sofa or whatever.
Honestly, it's surprisingly useful.
I could have done that. I've been under my floorboards doing plumbing this past few weeks a bit. So
honestly, it's really useful for that sort of stuff. It's and you'd be surprising what you can find inside drum kits as well.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah. Got those sugar-coated tops on, and there could be anything in there.
Well, especially when it's as old as mine as well. You know, the stuff that's in there. You're thinking, God, I didn't realise that was in there. You know.
I'm rich.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a farthing. You know. Not quite.
Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. Good to see everyone. We haven't streamed in a little while, so it's nice to come back online. We'll be doing this again regularly, probably as of February. January's been pretty busy on our end. Lots of stuff going on.
It's February next week.
Behind the scenes. Yeah, man, that's true. Yeah,
that's true.
We'll be back in February next week.
The longest month is almost over. The 50 days of January, however many days January is.
I think it's at least that, isn't it? It's about a third of the year, January. I was giving dry January a go, and I just got so bored.
I think everyone did. Even people who come into my work were like, "Oh, I'm doing dry January this year." And then like 2 weeks later, they're buying a bottle of wine on the Friday, but another bottle of wine on the Saturday.
Yeah, everyone did exactly the same. Tarek, our singer, he come, the first practice of the new year, says, "That's it, giving up smoking. I'm not having any booze." It was like probably 6 days later, sent me a photo of him having a pint.
I just feel like there's so much illness going around at the moment anyway. I was like, I might as well be drunk as well. There's no benefit to being sober if I'm just going to get ill.
I think if you just don't stop drinking, you're never really going to get ill, are you?
Exactly. There's a dog every day.
Certain amount in there all the time. It's not going to make any difference, is it?
It's going to kill off anything that comes into the system.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you function, honestly, that's all that matters. That's what I say.
Yeah.
So you didn't go down the veganuary route either, then, or unless you are.
No, I'm sane. Also, I don't think it helps. I don't think it's saving anyone. I think it's actually worse, isn't it, for the environment to be vegan nowadays?
It's more it is now, the stuff that they're making. I mean, I was vegan back in the day. It was I went vegetarian. I was vegetarian for 15 years. In the middle of that, I was vegan for about 5 years, I think, purely because I was cutting out more and more stuff.
Yeah.
and then I became vegetarian again, and then I became a carnivore again, which
Yeah.
really screws with people's heads who are vegetarian. They're like, why did you go back and start eating meat again? I'm like, honestly, I don't know.
Hungry.
I was hungry. I was hungry. I was hungry. I smelled gammon egg. Saw someone eating gammon egg and chips.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, that'll do it.
And that did it. Yeah, but I mean, that was
yeah.
completely different. The only stuff that we really had then was Linda McCartney's. And I heard a really great quote from a comedian that I like saying about Linda McCartney's sausages. They're all made from vegetables. It says it's ridiculous. It says, I wonder how many people buy those sausages to have as their vegetable accompaniment with a nice bit of steak. Because that's the only use I can see of them.
Yeah, man,
that's kind of the only option we really had, and Quorn was just coming out back then.
Oh, yeah.
But now everything is purely because they label it plant-based. Everyone thinks it's great, but the amount of processing and chemicals that goes into a lot of stuff is unbelievable. And I think people are being lied to a lot. Don't get me wrong. If you're a vegan and that's what you do and you're an ethical vegan, fantastic. I'm not criticizing people that are vegan for ethical reasons, but when it becomes a trend, they're doing it purely for the sake of it.
Yeah, man, I'm quite into sort of the health and fitness side of things and nutrition. So yeah, I'm quite keyed up on that kind of stuff. For me, it's been like not really a New Year's resolution, but a resolution over the last 4 or 5 months at the very least, probably since last summer actually, was to just understand the sourcing of my food a bit better. Because and I've started going to proper butchers, local butchers, and farm shops and stuff. It's made such a difference to the level of energy I have. It's ridiculous.
It really does. Yeah.
So much better, and you can have a lot smaller portions, obviously a lot lower calorie, and get a lot more nutrition from it and still have that high level of energy. It's like so much better to me that just having good food from a local source is everything now.
It really is that. I know it's a cliche, but cliches are a cliche for a reason. It literally, you are what you eat, and your body is, it's a case of getting that balance of not treating your body like a temple that must be obeyed, but also not treating it like a piece of shit, because the amount of stuff that you put in you, and it does make a difference, particularly when you're on. I mean, during my life, my weight's gone up and down. About 5 years ago, I was 6.5 stone heavier than I am now, and I just made the decision that I was just gonna try and get rid of the weight. And when you make that decision, it comes off quite easily. And I wasn't hitting the gym or doing anything like that. It was literally just a case of count the calories in and make sure that you're burning more calories than you're putting in. And the more you get used to it and you eat better food, with the odd time that you then have something a little bit crappy, you realize how crap it is. It's a case of you think, oh, just fancy whatever it is, and then you eat it, and then you really regret having it because it wasn't worth the amount of calories that you've just eaten. Like a tube of Pringles is 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
That's like more than half my daily allowance. It's I'm on like 1,900 calories a day or something. So a tube of Pringles is over half of what I should eat in one day. And you can eat 2 of them while watching a film,
and
getting through a 6-pack.
That's another one. The beers, the beers make a difference. Beer's a big one for a lot of people. I'm quite lucky. I don't really like beer and hops, so I'm a more spiritual guy. So I drink the lean alcohol, if you will.
More sugar.
Even then, I was gonna say, even then, if you're having
a lot of spirits,
it's about 50 calories a shot. I was gonna say it's when you bring in the mixers, when you start doing cocktails and stuff, your calories fly, dude. That's it.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many calories. I think there isn't. I don't know whether it still is, but there was far more calories in a pint of Coke than there is in a pint of beer.
Oh yeah.
And the sugar and the crap and everything else that's in there is. So I just stick to drinking it straight, as nature intended.
Straight out the barrel, man. I'm making the barrel
dry. It's the only all I water. I have Jack Daniel's honey whiskey. That's like my favorite.
Yes, that's the one, dude.
Because it's just slightly sweeter. That you can literally just neck it.
Honestly, it goes down so easy, doesn't it?
I could just have a straw, and just yeah.
Have you ever had?
IV straight into your mouth.
Have you had the sheepdog peanut butter whiskey?
Oh
no.
It is
peanut butter whiskey.
Yeah, it is.
Right,
amazing. It's called sheepdog. It's like a whiskey liqueur. It's not like like a proper whiskey. It's more like a liqueur. But
I like that. Oh, I say. I didn't realise I've seen it. I didn't realise what. Right, okay, I'm making a note of that. Yeah.
It's not for
That's-
me. I'll be honest.
I got the
You
big.
got the proper bottle. I've got to try
You're
that.
flopping his bottle out. What?
I've got to try. And it's probably one of your 5 a day as well, isn't it? Which is always a bonus.
Yeah, I wonder if it's
Yeah,
got.
gotta
Has
get
he got?
that in.
Has he got? Does he have to put nutritional
Nuts.
information?
Full
No,
of
but
I'm
nuts.
not sure. I think it's only if it's over a certain.
Oh,
It just says it's from America, so it's probably just corn syrup, dude.
That's all it is. Processed corn. Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. It's like really vanilla and caramelly. It doesn't really taste like peanut butter that much, to be
It
honest.
tastes a lot like it.
It's good. Yeah, it's got that nutty taste, but it's also like really vanilla-y and just like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Probably not that
It's
sure.
doable. It is doable.
Yeah. Does it taste like peanuts? Maybe I need another one, and then halfway through the bottle.
Yeah. Can't taste. Yeah. No, I'm a big Jack Daniels guy. So when they brought the honey flavor out, that was it for me. That was so good.
It's just ridiculously good. So many people say the same, and it's too quaffable. That's the problem. It literally
Yeah,
is.
so good for your throat as well. I like to think.
Well, that's true. Yeah, this is why I like to think I never get colds.
Yeah. Oh man, you know what? I've been hit with it the last week. I lost my voice early this week. That was no good, but good for tomorrow. I think we're all good for Bristol.
Oh, that's all right.
Big
Good,
Bristol
good.
debut.
Yes.
But
good.
I'm gonna have a Jack Daniels before we go on. Just make sure we're all smooth and good to go. Everything's dislodged.
Yeah,
That's the way to do it.
purely medicinal. Yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm
got to be done. You got to loosen it up, haven't you? So I think I've only ever played a gig once when I'd had too much to drink, and it was absolutely horrendous.
Mm.
It was one of the worst things that you could ever, literally, I was literally slipping off my stool, and I hadn't had that much, but it was enough. It was
Catches you wrong on the right day, you know. It's like, oh
Yeah.
God.
mind you, that was back in the day when it was all. I think I got a feeling we were playing in Bradford. I shan't mention the venue, but it was. There was loads of glue punks there. It was literally as you walked in, there was 2 or 3 punks sat outside drinking cider and sniffing glue. So everyone was absolutely out of there. I was probably the most sober there, but even so, it was horrendous. And I'm not, I won't do that again. A couple to loosen yourself up is fine,
Yeah.
and then afterwards you've packed all your shit away, then you can just, drink until you bleed. That's what I think a gig's for,
You got to get one as you come off. And then when you're packing away, you can sip at it as you're packing. That's what me and Aaron do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, you go straight to the bar, and everyone's like trying to pack on their shelf. We're like,
I like
Beer
a
is more
mid-set
important.
beverage, man. I like a mid-set drink. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Depending on the show, though. But like, if it's a bigger show, I tend to go stone cold sober. On the shows we're familiar with, like the pub shows or the smaller stages, I'll have a drink or two. I think it's a good laugh. I think you get a bit more social lubrication in there. It's a bit of fun.
Yeah, it loosens you up a bit, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly brought on some new things that I wouldn't have thought of if I was sober, for sure. There's like a bit in one of our songs, "Smoke It Away," where I literally just like do like a Japanese pleasure moan midway through the song that I definitely would not have done sober. But
no
now
one
it's
realizes.
it's become a thing now.
Now everyone knows.
Yeah.
Now
No one
everyone's
knew.
gonna be-
No one heard that at all.
That's going to be your thing. Everyone's going to be wanting. I'm making note of it. Right. Okay.
Oh, you'll hear it tomorrow, no doubt.
We
might
could
see that tomorrow.
we could solo it
It's
because
reflexive.
it's always the same bit, so we could all drop out. So
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
the drum fill.
yeah.
Yeah. That could be quite funny, actually. We should do that.
just saying. Let's see what reaction. You never know what might happen. It might be your new thing.
Normally it gets a little giggle. I quite like a little giggle. Bit of a chuckle. Ha ha ha. It's perfect. But yeah, so what we're here for, guys, we have a show tomorrow, the big debut in Bristol, Empire of One, Regional One, and Duskwood tomorrow at the Exchange, isn't it?
Exchange. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, the Exchange.
Excited.
Basement, not to be confused with the guy who's playing upstairs.
Yeah, well, we're better. Who's playing
Yeah.
upstairs?
I think he's a saxophonist.
Ah,
An American guy, does saxophone. Apparently, he's Suzanne Shaw's husband. I found out.
Suzanne Shaw.
Hearsay.
No
Hearsay. You're far too young for that. So other people
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I didn't realize, but I googled him, and apparently he's or her partner or something like that. So if people wander in and they say they had a fantastic time, I particularly like that sax song, you were at the wrong gig.
Hell yeah.
It would
Well,
probably be worse if it was the other way around. If they were coming to see a nice bit of gentle sax, and they stumble in and see us,
just hear Japanese pleasure moans. That's it.
it might be a
Very
thing.
funny.
Yeah.
You're at the right show, guys. Yeah.
So is this your first time in Bristol? You say?
Yeah, man. Yeah, Regional One's never been to Bristol.
Excellent.
I'm
That's
very
surprising.
excited about that.
You've been just about everywhere else, haven't you? We played Bristol once before at a brewery in Easton. It was fantastic.
Nice.
We got half paid in beer as well, in craft beer.
Ah,
So
that's the way to do it.
That's where we need to go.
Yeah.
I'll vote on Aaron's behalf.
Immediately.
Love craft beer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
should
you would drink
be a good
lager.
night. I think there's a really decent scene in Bristol. I haven't been to the Exchange myself before. I know that it's been a venue, really important venue for a hell of a long time, and it's run as a collective now as well, which is even more
That's cool.
interesting. They've got a recording studio in there. There's like some anarchist bookshop and label, I think, active, which has been going for years and years. Even I remember it in my early punk days. And they've got like a main venue in the basement, which we're playing in. So I think it's like sounds like a really, really good venue. I know it's an important place in Bristol. So I'm super
Excited for
hyped
that,
for it, as
yeah.
they say. I think looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we've been looking at coming to Bristol for quite a while now because the scene there is obviously very good. But it's been like, we had a few roadblocks on that one, just obviously with COVID and all that, and then sort of building back up from there, members leaving and that. Yeah, glad to finally be getting there because every time I go to a show in Bristol, it's wild. It's always so much fun.
Yeah.
That was last time in Bristol I saw Meshuggah, and that was when I was 21. So it was like 7 years ago. It was my 21st birthday.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Right,
that's
7 years,
only time
wow.
I've ever been. And we went there. And we went to like the Griffin. We went to like all the places in Bristol all in one night, and just went on an absolute mad one.
Man, I was up there not too long ago. See, highly suspect in this. I guess it's like, I can't remember what it is. It like the Factory or something? It's a really cool venue.
Yeah.
It's still got like the old foreman's rails up round the top and everything.
Yeah.
It's quite cool. That, yeah.
It's SWX, isn't it? Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what they call it now.
That's
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called now.
That rings a bell. Yeah. Where did you
That's
see
a cool
Where
venue.
did you see Meshuggah at? Sorry.
Is that the O2?
Oh, okay. So a big, yeah. I haven't seen them live yet. I'm probably going to go to Arc Tangent in August because I was waiting for them to confirm on the same day. You've got Meshuggah, Animals as leaders, and Night Verses. I don't know if you're into Night Verses.
I love them.
Literally,
I love all them.
my current 3 favorite drummers, probably in that order. So I think I'm going to go to that one. For the first time I've seen them, I think it'll should be
really good.
interesting.
I saw them at Bloodstock as well last year, and they put the whole set performance up on YouTube, and I'd highly recommend it.
I think I've seen a fair bit of it. Yeah.
It was amazing.
That gets better the more Jack Daniels I drink.
Yeah.
It's like 5 in the morning.
Even though they didn't do Bleed, which was kind of unbelievable for a headline slot.
Yeah, apparently they stopped playing it for a while, didn't they? But
yeah,
it's now back on their set. Apparently,
building up the hunger.
Yeah, he's getting too old for it, isn't he? Darko particularly, he's 50 something now, so he's can't do it anymore. You know what these old farts are like.
We'll get there. We might. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you've got the scars to prove that you've got there, then it's fine. They're all mental, but it'll be
yeah. They're all up here, dude. That's why I've been cutting up tennis balls.
What?
Self-help and it's therapeutic, is it?
I can't remember if that was on the stream or not, so that might have just been completely left of field. But
yeah,
all good.
That's that private conversation.
Yeah. That'd be awkward if not. Yeah, so obviously we had a show with you guys up at the Oval, which was awesome. We had, who else did we have? Was it James Haynes that night?
James Haynes,
that's right. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, no, that was a great fun night. It's really
guitarist. Yeah.
Hoping to get back up to the Oval again sometime soon. Quite like the Duke of York. They're doing something. They're doing quite a lot for their scene up there, I think, in the Oval. Because from my understanding, there's not a lot else there at the moment.
No, not since the railway. The railway was the key. You've played the railway. I think it's the first time we played together in my previous band, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
The railway was kind of seemed to be the key place, and it was going okay. And they were just I used to know Ian and Kelly, the people that ran it reasonably well, and they were talking about even the brewery investing in the Skittle Alley at the back. That they were going to turn it into a proper venue because they got a bar and everything set up. We used to practice there as well, so it was ideal spot for it. And then obviously COVID hit, and it just never seemed to recover. We played there a couple of times afterwards, and literally playing to like 8 people.
Yeah.
Which was a real shame, and it just seemed to change things. I don't know whether it's a permanent thing or whether it's just taken so long for things to come back. But it really, really changed things, and you were kind of almost guaranteed a crowd just by putting a gig on there. You almost didn't have to kind of promote it. But then it just seemed to completely die off, and unfortunately, the railway closed. And Yeovil was really struggling for venues, which is really strange considering the size of Yeovil. There just wasn't anywhere doing live original stuff. Plenty of places doing cover bands.
Yeah.
But trying to get your foot in the door doing originals anywhere was really difficult. So I don't know why people struggled quite so much, but luckily the Duke of York came along, and they've been putting quite a few. Haven't you played there twice now, or at least twice?
Yeah, I think headlined a few times now. Yeah, I think maybe 3 or 4 even.
I think it's been 3 times. Yeah.
We did actually play with. Was it with Duskwood actually?
Yeah, we did We did this with Sergeant
Kennet Fest.
Yeah, we did Kennet Fest. That was the first time we played there, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it wasn't Duke of York then. It was still the Con Club, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was wasn't it in the middle of changing hands? I think at the time.
Yeah, that's
right,
yeah.
But it would have been then, and then since it changed over a few more times after that, only a couple more shows.
I think so. Yeah, it's a good place. It's just again, it's the same thing, isn't it? That you just want people to be able to come out and support the live music.
Man.
It's if people vote with their feet, then you'll keep putting things on. If that's the kind of the key, the kind of the difficulty, isn't it? I don't know if you noticed it's changed a lot since COVID, or are you not noticing it that much difference?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, from like the business standpoint, it seems like people are buying tickets later. I don't know if that's a combination of sort of them worrying if they're going to be able. Maybe this is all sort of unconscious bias, really, but whether they're worried they're going to be ill or if the band's going to pull out last minute and it's all a faff getting refunds, because there was a lot of that in 21 and 22 where a lot of big major acts were just pulling out with the COVID tests. Man, we were a bit cheeky. I just fucking turned up anyway. We had COVID on a show and just got through the set and just went straight out the door and went home. But a lot of bands weren't obviously allowed to do that.
There was hysteria, and not getting into the politics of it, but there was an awful amount of hysteria about it, wasn't there? That people were getting sucked into. It kind of seemed to really divide people down the middle, didn't it? You were either one way or the other. Common sense just seemed to have completely went out the window, didn't it, with regards to anything, and people were just not prepared to risk anything. It was kind of a very, very odd time. But I don't know what it is with. It just doesn't seem to have recovered. I don't know whether people have just got used to staying at home now, and it's
people found things to do for sure. I think when you're locked in for a year and a half or whatever it was, then people were certainly finding things to do that unfortunately are not particularly social.
It's almost like Stockholm syndrome, isn't it? You didn't want to do it, but then when you got used to it, and why have you got to go outside into that big wide world and actually deal with people?
Yeah, man, for sure.
It's
crazy how quick that turned around as well. That kind of freaked me out a bit. I remember when people were, it was once a week, people were coming out onto their porches, kneeling down and clapping for the NHS and stuff. That seems really, looking back on it, it looks almost ritualistic. It's pretty odd.
Completely bizarre, wasn't it? Standing there with their pots and pans and yay for the NHS. It's like,
I don't know if this is getting a bit weird.
Yeah. You put that in a dystopian novel, you'd go, no, we're doing the screenplay. No, we can't have that. That's far too bizarre. But it's weird, that sort of hive mind, isn't it? That's what really surprised me. I said to my wife, when they started locking people down in Italy, and I said they'll never do that here, because people won't stand for it.
I thought the same.
they won't stand for it. And not only did they stand for it, they applauded it. It went the absolute opposite way.
Yeah,
It was just
wild.
Yeah.
There were also kind of like protests that weren't really covered by the news and that, which was quite strange. Because I guess I get why they do that, right? But it's just, I don't know, it's a bit odd.
The psyops that they use on people, again, regardless of not making a political point, you can't fail to see what they were doing was inordinately malevolent in trying to suppress any dissent or discussion about anything that's there. And anytime you do that, you're stifling a breakthrough in any form of science, because you're saying no, we can't. It's that absolutism, isn't it? You're either with us or against us. Talking about the protests, when they were saying, there was about, I saw one report, there was about 1,500 people there, where actually I think there was almost 1 million people at one point in London, deliberately misreporting things. And you've just got to ask yourself, why are they doing that? If they were doing it the other way round, it's the same as when we had all the Black Lives Matters protests, when people were getting stabbed and things were getting burnt, and they were saying the mostly peaceful protest.
That was quite good.
Yeah,
I did enjoy that.
It was
it looks so peaceful out there. People's houses burning down and stuff. I was like, I don't know if it's so peaceful, man.
And I think people have just kind of not necessarily recovered from that. It's one of those kind of a bit of a sea change, and people tend to prefer that. It's shame, isn't it? But
yeah, man, yeah, damn right. And I think it's something we write about quite a bit. Our album we're working on at the moment, some of the themes that are coming through in that seem to be very much around the sort of media-centric, dystopian sort of futures, which is also a bit of the present, really. But it doesn't seem like it's ever been any different. Something we do a bit when we're writing music and we're incorporating themes. I'll do a bit of research on the subject. I'll look into it, and it just seems like it's always the media, man. They're always the sticking point is the news. They're always the guys who seem to be splitting people up, dividing people on everything. They don't seem to be able to tell the truth. They just seem to be always having these sort of third-party interests. Like, you can look back throughout history on this one quite a lot, it would seem, and they always seem to stick to that. And I don't know why people suddenly thought they wouldn't do that on this matter. But obviously, looking back objectively, we can see that they have done that, and it split people again. What a surprise!
Yep.
I don't think it's natural for us all to be split like that. I don't think it sort of comes about accidentally.
I think I bring it down to, I think we're tribal in the sense of you naturally gravitate towards the people who, it's not necessarily an echo chamber. I think that's the difference between certain factions, the people like the cancel culture, when people are just if you don't agree with me, I'm going to shut you down and ruin you purely because I haven't got a counter argument. Whereas you'll get the other end of things. I mean, they'll label people alt-right. You show a mildly conservative opinion on anything, and at best you're alt-right or you're a Nazi. And then it's the same the other way. Anyone that's slightly liberal, or they're just a left-wing Marxist. There's nothing in the middle now. It used to be the SDP and the SDLP or whatever they're called, but there doesn't seem to be anything in the middle. Now it's just purely absolutism, and that's what divides people, and I think that's what the authorities are playing on. The fact,
and I think really people naturally do tend to sit sort of politically centre left and centre right. They don't want to be in the extremes. Most people they don't give a shit about that. But it does seem that we sort of get this hyper reality sort of constructed around us by, I guess, social media is a big part of it as well, right? Because the algorithms are sort of forcing us into our own echo chambers, and we only see the extremes. They obviously, anger sells, being upset sells. It keeps you on the websites. It keeps you watching the telly. It keeps you reading the paper. So there seems to be a lot of sort of winding us up, to be honest, by people who want to just extract money from us.
They want to make the news. Rather than reporting the news, they want to make it.
Yeah.
They'll create a story out of nothing by suggesting something. It's the same as doorstepping someone and saying, do you deny whatever it is?
Yeah.
Of course I do. Such and such denies that he's a Nazi or that he's a Marxist, whatever it might be. When there's nothing remotely concrete there, but they can just create it, and then you get all the trolls on social media. I think it's one of those things. I think it's a perfectly good way to spend your life arguing with strangers on social media about shit that doesn't matter. And I've got drawn into it in the past. I did genuinely at one point think, you know what, I'm going to go on Twitter and I'm going to genuinely try and have an.
That was the first mistake.
That was the first. I did it first. I did it once and got off it. I thought it's just a cesspit of idiots.
Yeah, man.
And then I thought, you know what, because I do enjoy, a debate. I like to put my point forward, but I'll also listen to someone else's point, and I'll actually engage with these people rather than just shouting at them.
Yeah.
And I tried it for a while, but I was getting really anxious about it. It's one of those things, until you switch your phone on in the morning, you wonder what arsehole is going to be threatening your life today.
Yeah.
Purely because you've had a slightly different opinion to him. And I just thought, you know what, this is just completely pointless. There's no point to it.
It's a weird thing to think, isn't it? That we used to just be able to put a wall between us and that person. Now they've got access to our pocket.
That's the problem, isn't it? It's so personal because something vibrates and you've just got someone saying, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, where they are inside your space. Whereas before, before all of that, you had to go out and buy a newspaper or even turn the TV on, or it wasn't just, you weren't constantly saturated with it. It's different for people that have grown up with it, I suppose, but I think it must lead to far more anxiety for people constantly having this barrage of information all the time. I made a conscious decision probably 3 or 4 months ago to say, you know what, I'm not going to look at any news at all now. Anything that's important enough that I need to know about, I will find out about, but I'm not going to constantly, because you read stuff.
I used to do the same. Yeah, I used to look at BBC all the time, and then I realised how much shit was on there. It's like,
BBC
this isn't
one
a
of the
story. Yeah,
it's not. It's BBC in particular. It's
all opinions. Like
it is, yeah, and it's all very much left of centre opinions. Whether or not that's there's nothing balanced there. And for any news organisation, it has to be balanced. Even Reuters, you used to be able to, they would just report the news. They would tell you what's happening. Fair enough, everyone's got a bias. We all have. But they were just telling you the news that was happening rather than trying to make a story. Even they haven't done it for a long, long time. They've all got an agenda because they're owned by about 3 or 4 people, aren't they?
Yeah, and not only that, it's money, man. Money talks on that one. Like, if you've got something that shocks someone as a headline, you get that click, and that click pays your breakfast or whatever, But, Just had a few comments come in. So regarding the lockdowns, Mark says driving down the M25 on your own without a car in sight was amazing. Yeah, I did like that. The first sort of month or 2 of lockdowns, I kind of felt like finally my plans for the zombie apocalypse are coming to fruition.
Yeah.
I was ready, dude. I was like, let's go to Brownsea Island, and from there we can move to the Isle of Wight. I was ready to roll.
Yeah.
I knew what was up. I had a nice baseball bat. Yeah.
I think then when it normalizes what you think you've got your own subculture. I'm not a particular people person. I keep myself to myself. I quite happily go and live in the middle of nowhere. But then when everyone's doing that, you think, I want to do something different.
Yeah, man. Kind of lost its edge a bit. I was like, I miss people now.
Yeah. It was surreal when you're doing that. You're doing that type of thing. Everything completely changed. Even being outside, you haven't got the background hum of. I mean, I live somewhere really quite rural, but even so, you get used to the background hum of daily activity. And there was a hell of a lot more nature about it. That was one of the really good things. Yeah, and it's surprising how quickly nature starts to take back over.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I heard it would take about 1,000 years or so for most of New York to just basically turn to dust. You'd just be left with the concrete shells. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That's pretty good.
That ain't long.
How do we know we've not already done that 3 or 4 times?
I've thought about this so much. So you don't get me started.
We don't, do we? We don't.
We talk about this on every single van journey, every single one. And we'll be talking about it tomorrow on the way to Bristol. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. It'll come up.
I'll remember to bring it up to you just to.
Hell yeah, dude. We have no idea. We wouldn't have a clue.
No,
that's so many places.
That's the entire point, isn't it? It's like when people talk, they talk about 100 million. It's like when they carbon date something. It's between 250 and 350 million years. Oh, okay, because nothing much could have happened in 100 million years, could it?
No, it only took humans 3,000 to 4,000 years to go from essentially, hunter-gatherer to, I don't know, space.
Being on Twitter.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, which honestly is kind of back down, but that's okay.
Yeah,
we get
yeah.
there. Yeah.
But that's the point, isn't it? It's not
Okay.
even a speck of dust on the backside of an elephant. The amount,
Mm.
the progress that we've made in this tiny short period of time.
Mm.
But unless you're of the other opinion that the Earth is only 7,000 years old, that's another debate.
That's a fun one too, man. I just listened to over the last few days. Listened to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy first book as an audiobook, and that one I like that one. The idea that the Earth's a computer and it's trying to work out what is the meaning of life. That's good.
Yeah. How do we know it's not? We don't. This is why I got in trouble as literally a 6.5-year-old at school. One of the first questions I remember asking in science class was, "How do we know?" I put my hand up, miss. "How do we know there's not a brick wall at the end of the universe?" Don't be stupid, I was told. I said, "How is that a stupid question?" Well, of course there's not. And I just said, "How do you know? Have you ever been there?"
Yeah. Right.
It's unlikely that there is, and the entire point, even when I was 6.5, I knew that there's no end to the universe. We can't comprehend, but that was the point that I was making. How can you state something if you haven't got any evidence for it? At least say, well, we don't know, but it's quite unlikely because, and isn't that what makes the world go round? It's like, have you ever tried?
Convince me, don't tell me. Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try and figure out what infinity is. The amount of times I've laid there at night thinking, what is infinity? And it's like, no.
No. Well, I simply don't have the capacity for that. I think I'll leave that alone. Hell yeah, dude. Yeah. We had another comment. So Mark says, it seems that some people can't even hold a discussion without reverting to insults. Yeah, agreed. So something we were taught back in school was, I did a whole, even like exams and everything, just getting a GCSE in critical thinking. And we were taught that debate, reason, build your points. You had all the point evidence explained was just a basic thing that everyone knew. And for some reason, that seems to have gone out the window in any just modern discussion, which is very annoying. I quite enjoy using words. I don't know about you guys. I think they're very exciting when you get the right combination of them. And we should do it with each other more often without getting all angry and shit. But there you go.
It's the thing with online, isn't it? Everyone's trying to get that prove you wrong moment. Yeah, the prove you wrong moment. And then they start digging through your history and
destroyed.
Yeah.
It's like, was it Ricky Gervais said? He says, "Oh, I'll be cancelled." He says, "But it won't be something that I've not yet said. It'll be something that I said 20 years ago." And I was watching a documentary about sort of various conspiracy theories, etc. And someone was making up. I can't remember this guy's name, but it was pre-Snowden. He was a fraudster, one of the biggest fraudsters in America. And he got caught, and he couldn't figure out why, because he was a genius. And it turned out that the Americans were using, basically it was pretty much illegal, something called Stingray, where they would it would be a handheld device that could make your cell phone connect to that instead of the mast, so they could gather all the information they wanted as they drove past or walked past you. And it was something that was practically illegal. Now, fair enough, he was guilty of millions of dollars worth of fraud.
Yeah.
But he was such a genius. While he was in prison, he defended himself. He went to the library and everything. And he got this thing out there that they were doing some practices that they shouldn't have been doing, because he knew that there was no way that they could have caught him, because he didn't leave any trail whatsoever. I don't even know why I've started to talk. So I'm trying to think where it came from. I know it was relevant to something, so talk amongst yourselves. And I'll come back.
No, I think I'm with you, because it's very much like the Assange case and the Snowden case. I'm very interested in those. The way those guys have been treated is insane. Because they obviously went against the grain, they went against the system, but I think they did it in favor of the system. It's not like they were doing it to tear something down. They were doing it because they thought there was a level of improvement that could be made, and actually people were taking advantage of the thing that they were a part of. So it's pretty wild to see these things go the way they do. There was a similar one with GCHQ in the UK. I can't remember the name of the film, but Keira Knightley plays a part in this film. I'm trying to think. It was on Amazon. Very good. But that was about the case in the UK, and it seems like awareness for this is very low. People
extremely low.
Yeah.
And I think people have a disposition to not believe. They'll call it a conspiracy theory, won't they?
Yeah, that's the one.
Purely because something sounds really unlikely doesn't automatically mean it has to be untrue.
As soon as I found out how, for example, the UK stocks were, I think it was the 1800s or the 1900s or what, but one family managed to take out something like 50% of the UK stock exchange by definitionally a conspiracy. And since then, I've been like, oh, maybe there's something to these on occasion.
Yeah.
There's obviously wacky ideas out there and wacky
There is.
people who are giving them, but every now and then one comes along, you're like, ah, JFK. Ooh.
There's certain thing, that when there's not enough evidence necessarily there to say completely and utterly that no, that can't possibly have happened. Moon landings are a typical example. Yeah. It's one of those things that, regardless of where you sit on, your opinion of it, there's something not quite right about the footage that we were shown. Because of the foreshadows, which is literally impossible to have, etc. Quite a few different things that don't add up. That doesn't mean that we didn't go to the moon and that isn't the footage.
Exactly that. Yeah.
And it also doesn't mean the other way. There's a questions there that need to be asked and they're not giving the proper answers. So it doesn't automatically mean that David Icke is right about everything, but then it doesn't automatically mean that David Icke is wrong about absolutely everything. Maybe there's somewhere in between. And if you're open enough to listen to these things, surely you're going to be able to learn, and then you can go off and do a little bit of research yourself and try and figure out where the truth may lie. I got a friend, singer-songwriter, friend of mine in Scotland, who used to know quite well L. Ron Hubbard's old butler, and a lot of the stuff that he's gleaned from him, he's told me about. And again, he's got no political persuasion, but he's just telling me what he was told. He says, and I've got no reason to disbelieve him. And that puts a different slant on who he was before he realized how much money was in Scientology.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't just discount Scientology, every single bit of Scientology, purely and utterly because it clearly is a scam. There's certain parts there that I believe that he believes that when he set out, he was there, he was genuine. It's just that he wasn't making enough money and he suddenly realized that he could make a ton of money. Then the God complex kicks in. Everyone starts telling you you're godlike, you'll start believing it. And then you go down that wacky route.
It seems very sort of common with cults as well. They they kind of start off pretty innocent, like, oh, we found a problem we're going to solve. And they start solving it. And then one guy gets weird and shags everyone.
Well, it's a common thing, isn't it, with cults? They all want to have sex with your wife.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, hang on a minute.
What could be going on here?
Yeah. Driving around in Rolls Royces and shagging your wife. It's like, no, I think there might be something wrong there. But that's kind of the weird thing going back to sort of to COVID. That's why we didn't have the opposite reaction to it. That hang on, this is just there was so much stuff that the government were telling you that clearly was nonsensical, didn't make any sense, and was bullshit. And people didn't see it. I don't know whether it's cognitive dissonance and they didn't want to question it because I don't know what it is.
A bit of fear. I don't know about you. I was pretty scared for the first few weeks. I was like, oh, this could be pretty fucking serious. Like, I mean, obviously as time goes on, that falls off a cliff pretty quick. But at first, I think when something comes along that's that scary, you go to whoever's your authority figure. Absolutely.
I think people are used to. You wouldn't expect your government to lie to you to that degree, which they clearly have. They clearly have, and they're still. I know that they do certain covert things, and I expect them to do covert things on my behalf. And I'm thankful for it because it is for the greater good, if you like. But then you just become again. It's God complex, isn't it?
I just think they just try to expand so much. It's like any company would move in and expand real quick and easy if there was an opportunity, and the government seems to be running itself more like a company more and more. And it's a bit of a sketchy one. Like, again, I got no issue with the government overall. I think it's very good. I think overall what they do is good. We need them to enforce the contracts with other countries. We need them to protect us and essentially, make sure the machinations of the country are ongoing. And I'm very pro that, and I think the government is a very useful thing. I'm not anarchist or anything like that. But
I would say
it just gets a bit overreach.
It's the least worst solution we've got, isn't it? I heard someone say, and that's kind of what. Yeah, I'm the same as you. Yeah. But that doesn't mean to say that everything they tell you is true.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It's a case of it's questioning something, and that's what was going back to kind of the original plan. That's what was so surprising when lockdown. No, that won't happen here. They'll be in the streets and they'll riot, and they embraced it and stood on every Thursday, stood on their doorstep, banging a pot and pan, for the national COVID service. Yeah.
That was odd. That I didn't know how I felt about that at all.
I
don't know.
do.
It's kind of raining outside. I don't think I want to go kneel on the doorstep for 10 minutes. That's not for me. That.
No. Well, you might then get a flu. No, you can't get the flu because the flu was eradicated. But that's no. Now I'm getting political. You might then get ill. You might get ill and have to go to the National COVID Service. And unless you've got COVID, but I suppose you could always fake a COVID test. But then aren't they all fake anyway?
Yeah, man. What a wild few years.
Anyway.
I hope history looks back at that and goes, "That was a weird step for us." We'll shimmy around that one next time.
I don't think we'll do that again. I think that was a bit shit, don't you?
I think if I was told to lock down right now, I'd be like, I'm probably not keen on it. I think
I'm all right. Yeah,
there might be a better way around this.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Apart from band practice and gigs, it didn't make that much difference to me because I never really go out anyway. I don't like people.
Man, I was miserable. I hated not being able to fucking go and do shows and rehearse and write with the boys.
That was the worst part about it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I had a good bit of time playing video games for a while, but real quick that just becomes a cycle of depression, and it's so boring after a while. You need balance, you need objectives to move forward with. It's like we didn't have any of that really. It was insane. But again, look, knee-jerk response. It was a pretty scary time. I don't think it was ever an intentional thing. I think they had the right thing in mind at first. I just think all these situations get advantage taken of them by people who know how to and have an incentive to do so. It was a bit rough.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah. Bit of a shame, that one. We've had a few comments come in. Let's go for it. So we'll go back up to, it was pretty crazy that we had to queue to go to the shops. That was odd. That was very odd. So we got to queue to go to
nonsensical as well.
Yeah.
Nonsense, especially having to walk a certain way round.
Around
the shop. Yeah.
It was so useful that because COVID follows the arrows. I found that was good.
It was great, wasn't it? I knew that as long as I walk in that direction, I'm absolutely fine.
Absolutely safe, no issues. Mark says, "Please don't go there. 3,000 or 4,000 years doesn't even cover it." Yeah, I'm quite big on the ancient history side of things. I'm a bit of a classic one for you is the pyramids. I find that one quite fascinating. I mean, I used to think it was a bit of a weird thing to talk about, and there were kind of a few insane people talking about it at first, until I realised that, so some of the chambers are actually made out of solid granite. Okay, they're things that are like 800 tons in weight. Because I was like, obviously they rolled it on logs. Like, I don't think a log can deal with that.
No, there's certain, science is science, and regardless, you can look at the technology they have at the time, and you think that it doesn't add up. 2 and 2 is not coming to 4, so there's obviously something else in play.
Yeah.
How they did it, we don't know. But
I've heard some fantastic theories as well, because there's I think it's Chichen Itza, a place in South America, where there's a step pyramid, like an Aztec temple looking thing. And if you clap in front of it like so, it'll reflect back the sound of the local Quetzal bird, which is a bird that they worship, by the way. So I don't think that was accidental. Quetzalcoatl, I think, being the bird or the first person, one of the educators of their civilization in their mythology. So that one got me real interested. I was like, okay, sound maybe. Because now we've got technologies we're looking at the moment to cut diamond, where you vibrate diamond at a certain frequency. You can cut it with essentially a butter knife. So I wonder, could sound be something to do with it? There's all these kind of crazy ideas that I think, why haven't we considered it? Why do we think we figured it out? Why?
It'd be so ignorant and arrogant to assume that we, purely because we're more advanced, that we have all the answers. There's certain things that they were aware of that we are not yet. We just don't know. As human beings, we're only living in the current realm that we're living in. How do we not know that there was an alternative realm, a different vibration that we're? And I'm not a hippie by any means. I get you. I'm just open to trying to. I'd like to try and figure things out. I'd like to try and explore all possibilities. Some suggestions are clearly nonsensical, and there's no credit in merit in them, and there's no point looking at it because it just doesn't happen. But if you dismiss absolutely everything out of hand with at least not considering things, I think it's more of a dull world.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of love the thought experiment of these kind of things. I think it helps with problem solving skills in general as well. I just start to think more laterally and sort of more able to problem solve in different ways I wouldn't normally expect. I think because of these alternative theories coming to the sphere. I just think it's fascinating to even think about, and probably I reckon if you asked everyone in the world well, maybe not the world, but certainly definitely in the Western sphere, if they had a time machine, where would they go? I bet the most common answer is the pyramids. I bet money that would be straight up my answer for sure.
Or was it? Or isn't it supposedly the most common one? I go back and kill Hitler.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of an error on that one. I think. I think it's a funny one, but I don't think it checks out. Like,
yeah, but yeah, it is. It is. But then, isn't that probably because that's probably the oldest civilization that we can actually relate to, and that's probably only because it's kind of the earliest records that are translatable, and we can. Yeah, all that's kind of left really, because how do again going back to what we said, how do we know that however many 100,000 years ago, million years ago, that we've not repeated a cycle already, and everything's, we don't, and I think it's the only thing that's kind of relatable, really, isn't it? That sort of 4,000 odd years ago.
Yeah, agreed. I think so.
It's. I think they built the pyramids with the help of dinosaurs. Anyway.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Man, imagine if they built the dinosaurs with the help of pyramids.
That's what I was going to say, but I thought I'd blow your mind too much.
Galaxy brain. Whoa, that just turned off my flux. Whoa.
Yeah.
Shit. So good, though. I love all these kind of thoughts. I think they're really fun. I know a lot of people who just have zero interest in even thinking about it, but I think it's so fun.
It makes life more interesting, and you never know, you might learn something if you're open to, if you're open to those sort of ideas. I don't necessarily mean, like flat Earth. The Earth is flat. It's one of those things that we can comprehensively say that no, it isn't.
Yeah, I can draw a line on that one for sure.
Yeah, but I haven't been into space and I haven't seen it for myself, so there is a teeny tiny possibility.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. There might be that brick wall at the end of the universe.
Yeah. Or restaurant.
Restaurant. Yeah, I was going to say.
Got him.
Bring it back to the hitchhikers.
Yeah.
Oh. Hell yeah, dude. Why is flux on and off constantly? Hold on one second.
It does do that.
It's going nuts. I want to be in the orange color. There we go. Oh, it's not working. I give up. Oh, no. It's just flashing. I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, man, I love all that kind of stuff. I think it's interesting. And for me, I for a while, I kind of lost a sense of mysticism with the world. I think it was like, it kind of felt like, okay, we're going through school, we're learning all this stuff, everything's figured out. There's nothing really new to figure out. Maybe going to space is one, but we clearly know history. We clearly know what everything's gone on. We've got a linear story here. And I just don't think we do anymore. I don't think we have that linear story we were told we do throughout sort of academic careers and through school. I think there's a lot more to it, maybe. And even if there's not, it's really fun to think about and let people have those thoughts and test their theories, because it seems to be that those kind of theories get suppressed a bit, which is, I don't know why. Yeah.
Well, that's the point. And if it comes down to kind of almost at the start, it's even down, big, huge scientific theories, almost down to just that slight difference of opinion of whatever the current discussion is at the minute. If you're that, I think it's insecurity. If you're that much of an absolutist that you can just say no, and I won't hear anything said otherwise. You're scared. You're scared of having your opinion challenged. We've all got biases. We've all got opinions, but you're not going to be necessarily open to, thinking about something. You just think about it, and then if you still think no, actually, now I think about it, it's even more ridiculous than I first thought. At least you've considered something and you've come out the other side of it. It's the same as, kind of almost the same as music, really, isn't it? Music is music. If you like it, you like it. Just purely and utterly because it's not necessarily your genre. Are you going to completely and utterly discount it for forever? If it's a song you like, it's a song you like, rather than just saying, no, all I listen to is what punk, rock, whatever, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that just for the tribal mentality we mentioned before. There's definitely like a tribal mentality to a lot of music. Certainly, I know there's been a lot of complaints lately about sort of the metal community when it comes to really popular metal bands from last year, like Sleep Token, for example, got a lot of flack. But hey, man, they're bringing people into the scene. I think that's a good thing. Let's share it with people so they can come hang out at our parties and mosh. It's like,
and they might discover some other bands that they appreciate as well at the along the way.
everyone needs their in. My into rock and metal was a combination of Meatloaf and Breaking Benjamin.
Right.
It's, you know what I mean? Look where it ended up. It's so.
But that's the point. There's obviously there's a certain hook for you, as there is for me, and for everyone. It might be a bass line you like, that it might be the top end frequency, it might be drums, it might be vocals, whatever it is. But there's a certain hook, isn't there, to music that draws you in. But there's also bands that I can say I really like that band despite the vocals or whatever it might be.
I was like that with Sleep Token actually, but the vocals have grown on me now. So obviously repetition does increase sort of your friendliness.
Funny, because that's what most people go on about, don't they? He's the vocalist, and it's distinct.
It's because it's weird. He's got like a weird pop voice, and it sounds like he's got a sponge in his mouth, and he speaks like a British bloke. But it does grow, man, and it really works with the sort of dynamics they've created around him, I think, because they've got those deep 7-string guitar sounds in there, and it works really well with this. He's got quite a soulful voice. It's just the accent's odd, I think.
Yeah, and that's but it works, doesn't it? When you look at so many bands that shouldn't work, it does. The ugliest frontmen you can possibly imagine are some of the most popular people in the world. It's got nothing to do with talent, anything more than charisma. Mick Jagger, for instance. I'm not a Rolling Stones fan.
I was thinking that. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad we're on the same page. He's as a singer, he's dreadful. Charisma, he's off the scale.
Yeah, man. So that he writes lyrics people can relate to. He can perform like an absolute beast. Still perform like an absolute beast as well at that age, which is unbelievable. And I think the real thing that I get from these kind of bands, again, not big on Rolling Stones, but I see what they've done is amazing. It's authentic, and I think that's what they've got a good bullshit filter, and it comes back to all the things we've talked about this evening as well. The bullshit filter is a real big thing, and it certainly comes into play when it comes to authenticity of music, I think.
Yeah, people, particularly live, and that's the thing that a certain generation would miss not seeing a live band. The difference is absolute night and day from listening to someone on a record and seeing someone live, because you can tell, like you say, you can tell whether they're faking it, whether they're into it or not. You don't even have to be into a certain genre of music or that band to enjoy that band live, purely because they're live. You can see what they're doing is interesting, and you get the opposite. You can have someone who's fantastic in a studio, really good on record, and they're just dead live. There's nothing there. They're going through the motions. I'd always prefer that, to see the live. I know, biased, but the live experience is far better.
I think the connection's more raw, and not, it's very much a very literal face value thing. You can feel the difference in the room. Like, there was a good example. I went to see Bring Me the Horizon in Bournemouth. Luckily, got a last-minute ticket on that one. They're phenomenal. They're a band, actually, till last year, I didn't really like them. And then I saw them live, and I was like, all right, I get it now. In its live setting, it made sense, and it opened me up to the whole sort of really more that genre, actually. I didn't really listen to that kind of thing at all. But the same thing with Bad Omens supporting them. They're so good live, man. They were so good. And again, because I always try and make an effort to have a listen to a few tracks of each of the bands that we're going to see or that we're playing with and everything. And I wasn't really fazed by their recorded stuff. It seemed to always peak at a point before it needed to peak for me on the recordings. It didn't have the right energy to it. And then when I saw it live, I was like, oh, I see. Because it makes sense in context of what they do.
I see what they're trying to do. Yeah, I think that's probably why I was, I sort of cut my teeth in. First stuff I was into was really sort of the very, very new wave. I think I mentioned before, Adam and the Ants really got me into music as a youngster. Then I discovered all of the Southern Californian hardcore punk bands, stuff like Adrenaline OD and Agent Orange and all of that type of stuff, which then led me into New York hardcore, and that's where my heart has always lied. And whatever I then listened to, I listened to a hell of a lot of Genty, prog rock, Tool, Animals as Leaders, Night Verses, Meshuggah, all of that type of stuff. But they all seem to have that sort of key element that they're doing what they want to do. And I think that's really key in music, rather than playing to the numbers. And I'm not disparaging anyone that goes out and does cover bands, and if that's what you enjoy. It's never been my thing personally. I prefer to, probably because I'm not disciplined enough to be able to learn exactly what someone else is playing. I can just do my version of it. But I think there's always something there that speaks to you, whether you've gone through punk and you come out into EDM, whatever it might. There's certain EDM stuff that I can listen to because I'm thinking, you know what, that's really good.
Yeah.
There's some fantastic drummers. It's a bit weird, like North Lane, Australian band.
Mm-hmm.
They started out as almost a hardcore band, and now it's just pure EDM. But the drummer is still supremely talented at what he's doing.
That's what hooks you in, yeah.
Precisely, and I think it's the same with whether your thing is vocals or bass or guitar or whatever it is. There's got to be a hook, and you can find it pretty much in any music. We practiced last night. Tom, our bass player, was saying, I can't remember who it was, but it was something fairly poppy or indie. I was listening to such and such, and I was just thinking of the chords that they were playing. I was thinking, you know what? I think we can do something with that. Yeah. I think that will fit with what we're trying to do. Because let's face it, you don't really ever invent anything. Even if you do think I've come up with something new, then guarantee the day after you'll hear something that's exactly the same, and you think, shit, I can't use it.
I think that's actually a really good point to pull you up on there, because a lot of younger musicians who are trying to write their own stuff are always trying to come up with something completely new all the time, and especially from scratch right at the start. So that's a hard thing. But I think that actually puts a lot of people off eventually. I don't think that shouldn't be the plan. I think sometimes maybe even learning to write around well-known chord progressions is a really good way to start songwriting, to get this sort of, again, cut your teeth on song, well, within the songwriting realm is go through some things that work, that you know work, and then make them yours more. Because the reason I think all these bands that do so well is because they're obviously working with things they know work, but then they're just putting their twist on it. I always thought this about sort of big bands such as Green Day, for example, right? Pretty simple music mostly. Then every now and then Trey Cool on drums will do something that is him and entirely him. And you know what? Their songs are in rock school grades. Their songs are on the radio constantly. Most people I know quite like Green Day, and they put on a really fun live act, right? So again, it comes down to that. If people are out there writing songs and they're trying it out for the first time, don't go in straight away and try and write Rush. Because that'll fuck your day up and it'll put you off. Just go in and have a good time with something you know is going to work. Get around some chords, get some melodies in there, make something that you think, that's not bad, and then work from there onwards. I think that's the best way to go, personally.
Absolutely. Because there's a reason that works, and it's a standard, whether it's, a bass riff, keyboard riff, guitar riff, drum pattern. There's a reason why pretty much every song that starts out is 120 BPM. 4/4, purely because supposedly isn't that the rate that our heart beats at, and it's something we can really tune into.
That's quite an interesting one, actually. I learned this at uni. So 120 BPM used to be the walking tempo. 120 BPM was your walking rate. The big reason actually tempo's got faster across sort of the whole of the music industry. It's around 135 now, and you can actually map it back to a certain period of time apparently. And I didn't think of it, but it was to do with the introduction of highly caffeinated products into the industry. So more people having caffeine.
I was going to suggest, maybe the late 80s, all of the E that people were doing, but similar sort of thing.
Oh, certainly a bit of that. Yeah, well, EDM's always faster tempo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or nicer trainers.
It's really weird, that, isn't it? Yeah.
We live life.
We're trying to synchronize with it, aren't we? It's all.
I think we probably are. It's probably all to do with your refresh rate on your monitor or your iPad or your phone or whatever it is as well. We're just running like that all the time. But that, just as you say, there's a reason that these standards work, and if you can say master those standards. I always think if you always think you've never got anything left to learn, that's the point when you should stop. I'm constantly trying to, probably to my detriment, I'm probably constantly trying to think, what's he doing? How can I do it? It's the same as that. Have you, you know who Grayson Recruitment is, the drummer?
I don't think I do, actually.
He's a jazz drummer. He's kind of come up on YouTube. A phenomenal jazz drummer. He kind of models himself on Buddy Rich. So he's got the tux and the tie and everything. He plays trad grip and everything, and he's fantastic at what he does. He's done a video of the actual solo in Whiplash. He's actually and he's playing, and he's a sight reader and everything, and he does all of that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. He's done various Drumeo things. But he's ended up just doing a tour with Suicidal Tendencies.
Okay.
The last person in the world you would think, purely because he says, I've got to learn everything. I'm sure it's Suicidal Tendencies. No, it won't be Slayer. No. So yeah, I'm sure it's Suicidal Tendencies, which is fairly straightforward, thrashy stuff. But as he says, there's always something to learn. Oh, you're gonna bring your jazz, your jazz riffs to Suicidal Tendencies? No, of course. What a stupid thing to say. It's the opposite. Yeah. It's the absolute opposite. It's the same.
And it's also not only learning to play it, but learning to play it well. I always thought that was like everyone's sort of like, obviously in the music world, especially with bands and stuff, that everyone's always taking the piss out of the bass, like, oh, it's the easier instrument, this, that, and the other. I think it's probably the easiest instrument to pick up and learn the basics, but it's the hardest one to play well, like by far.
Yeah, you can get away with. I've seen plenty of bass players that can get away with it. But there's the bass players that you actually get hooked into. It's
like being a good a good bass player. You're looking at someone, you go, "Fuck, that's nice."
Completely different animal. And it doesn't mean to say that they're doing ridiculous solos or finger tapping or anything. It's just the fact that they are the music, to use that phrase. It's the same as whoever you're playing what is needed for that song. And sometimes it can be something straightforward. Sometimes it can be something slightly different.
Absolutely.
And that's the difference, and that's what's difficult, having that to be regimented enough to play what the song needs rather than trying to show off. We're all show offs, let's face, that's what we do. But it rather than trying to you've got to gel together, haven't you? You've got to know when to cut back and when to go forward. And
I think that's the hardest thing with bands. That's why it takes so long for bands to do well. And obviously you're slowly building up your audience anyway. You've got to physically travel to do it still. You've got to get around the country. There's no pay to, well, there is pay to win, but it's a lot of money, so most people can't do that. And even if they do, it doesn't mean people are going to turn up. So when it comes to like building the popularity and building a culture around a band, it takes that long, not only because of that slow process of actually building a business out of it, and learning all the technical side of the music business as well as a right nightmare, but also that 4 guys, especially, like, I mean, for us, it's 4 guys learning to be around each other all the time, learning how we all want to make music that can somehow fit together like puzzle pieces. Well, it takes a while to chisel out those puzzle pieces and get good at making the puzzles. It's like,
and tolerating everyone's little, little things that they do, and
fuckisms,
that's a good. It's why quite so many bands just get on the cusp of becoming popular and break up. It's because they've had to deal with each other for 5 or 6 years and they can't do it anymore. So do you find, are you, the 4 of you, are you kind of pulling from? We were talking about this at practice. We were often 3 of us are all pulling from different directions, but we're neither of us are trying to sound like those bands that we're influenced by. We're trying to come together and find who we are. Is that the same for you, or are you more on the same page, would you say?
So I'd say there's a bit of that for sure. There's elements of each of us from the playing side. So for example, Aaron, from a drumming perspective, he's well into Rush, he's into his prog. He's also into a lot heavier stuff than I am as a vocalist, for example. Callum the same, he's more from the metal side of things. More, I guess, how would you say your stuff? Kind of more sort of, I guess, more thrashy, more, if you think like more Bloodstock.
I listen to everything, is the thing. Like,
but the music you talk about and the bands you go to see.
Yeah.
And the bands I would say influence you on, it isn't really, you have your pocket for sure, I would say.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say you're on the heavier end as well, I'd say, for sure.
Much heavier.
Because like,
I listen to anything with blast beats and down-tuned guitars. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, there you go. That's I listen to anything. I just need 7 strings and 2 bass drums.
Right? 8-string guitar and 6-string bass. That's
there we go.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? How you're drawn to that type of stuff, but you don't necessarily. I don't know whether you try and shoehorn certain things into songs that shouldn't necessarily be there just for fun, or you just.
I don't think we do actually. We're quite calculated with some of our songwriting. So sometimes it would just be a cool idea that turns into something. Other times we've got something particular in mind. So me and Stevie's more kind of into the, I guess, the emo-y, pop punky stuff, and more like now more so classic rock and.
It's
like
dad rock. He loves his dad rock, doesn't he?
He's getting into the dad rock now,
yeah, even more than Aaron. Aaron's the dad rock aficionado.
He's the dad rock.
You get people with him, he won't shut up about Motley Crue. He loves Motley Crue.
I can talk. I think I was talking to him about the film the last time we played that Motley Crue.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Oh, Grit, man, that's a great film, man. Oh, that is a good. If anyone out there is looking for a film to watch tonight, look for Grit, the Motley Crue film. It is so good.
Yeah,
It's
some
so
of
good.
some of this is true.
Yeah, man. What I really like is they had the probably the best villain in Game of Thrones was in that. And he was one of my so good. But yeah, myself, I come from in terms of a songwriting perspective, I'm more thinking about theatre hooks and themes than anything. I think about songs that I like the sound of, and I'm like, okay, I want it to have this kind of energy, but I can never really triangulate what that is until we put it with the band. I'm always thinking about how's this going to be live, and are there any moments I can create in a live setting from this? That's more where I write from. More melody based as well. So I'm originally a drummer, but from a vocal standpoint, when I'm writing vocals, I'll often sit at a piano and work the melody out properly and try and give it a nice strong hook as well. We always try and have a theme to our songs and a hook that sits with that theme. So things like sold. If someone says sold now, if I hear a fucking cashier say sold or anything, straight away own song
It's
playing in
going.
head. Yeah, it's sold.
And it's there for 6.5 hours.
Oh yeah. We're doing that with a few tracks now. We're hoping to do that with a few more as well. So, yeah, Loud is one that I think will eventually do that as well. That's quite a fun one. But some of the new songs we're writing have certainly got those sort of, I guess, monikers to them. These kind of themes that we're hijacking words from people's vocabulary. Hopefully, that's the secret sauce. That's good fun.
So did you have an idea what you were actually trying to start off as, and you've naturally progressed, or has it been deliberate, the kind of what the decisions you've made, or has it just been more organic, if you like? Because I think
it's been pretty organic, this band. So this one's
I think
been
most
going on a
bands
while.
aren't they? You get together and you find your feet, and then you find your sound. Yeah.
So we've done that, and then we started chiseling in, right? Yeah.
Then you will inevitably make a really bad album and realize that you've gone too far and go back.
We're gonna do it at some point. Yeah, we're gonna go nuts.
Yeah. I think most bands do that, don't they? You kind of have to find.
I think Sevenfold just did.
Oh, see, now I've got Almost Easy in my head. I've been watching too many videos of that about the Rev playing it in the studio, and it's just been absolutely in my head for the last 3 weeks. Yeah,
their studio diaries are really good as well. I enjoy those.
It's it's again, you can see certain progressions, can't you? There's certain bands that come along that they have. It's almost like it's perfect, but then I suppose it's down to you to test the waters. If you're not progressing, you're kind of almost going backwards, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be stagnant. You want to bring your audience with you on a journey, and I think that's why it's so important that these things are authentic. Because if it's not authentic, they'll know that you put this project out because you think it's going to sound good to them. If you do something authentic that you care about and you like the sound of yourself, I mean, we always say if we're writing a song and it doesn't sound like what we want to hear right now, don't write it. Like, it has to be something we want to listen to.
Yeah,
and we're pretty good at that.
I think our expression is it us? I like it, but is it us? And you'll say, no, it's good, but it's not us. It's to whatever, but it's not us. And
it's tempering that in, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that we've had, probably there's certain riffs that we might have even had for 2 years, and we know it's good, but we can't find a way to fit it in. Then all of a sudden, something else comes along, and boom, and it's
something
there.
Makes sense, yeah, man.
You try and force it.
A few of those.
It's horrible. We've discarded probably, honestly, 3 or 4 times more songs than we actually. That's why we have such a short set. No. Because the stuff that we put together, we're fussy about, and we discard stuff, and we're constantly. We got to the point where we had to make ourselves keep going over the set, and we've got to keep these songs because otherwise we'd never be gig ready, because we keep throwing stuff away thinking, no, that's just not good enough for what we're after. So many riffs that I've forgotten about, and it's a case of, I think once you do, you get that kind of block of who you are. It allows you to go off on different tangents as long as you remain sort of in the core of who you are as a band, even though that core will probably change and progress as you go along. You've got to have who you are as a band. I think it's the same for
and I think it'd be really weird if people didn't change and progress in some way. I know a lot of fans of bigger bands will always say, it feels like a betrayal in some ways, but I do think those normally are pretty drastic changes. But you have to have some natural progression. I mean, you go through life, you don't just not age, do you? So you got to progress in some way, and hopefully that's a positive thing for a lot of people, and you get to bring more people along for the ride, and then they get to look through your history and enjoy that. Maybe it'll take them down a whole different rabbit hole. But yeah, it's so important. And when it comes to the songwriting side, we're certainly very similar. We when we perform a headline set list, we're giving them every song we've got. That's it. That's all the songs we own. That's all the songs we've written. Until the point where we're obviously writing this album's worth, we might have enough to do proper encores that aren't, a little bit pre-organized, shall we say?
Leave those two for the encore. Shit, no one's clapping.
Yeah. We've done some funny ones of those, man. We had Anvil in Bournemouth, and it was me, Callum, and Stevie. Just like there's a tiny little cupboard at the side of the stage. We're just like in it, like stuck in there, like so. Should we do another one, man?
Wait. Yeah.
It was so good, man. Yeah. Right. I'm just gonna go for a few comments. We better wrap it up for the evening, gents, because it's we're well over. We're having a good one. So, Mark, just a quick shout out actually. So, a good friend of ours, Mark Lane, he's put together a Regional One fan page. So, look up our Common One fan page. Have a look when you can. I think a lot of our announcements go into there. They get reshared. A lot of his photography goes into there as well. Photos of the band playing live, etc. So, if you're interested, go check that out. It's awesome. And the book, The Heroin Diaries, is awesome. I will have a look at that and see what that looks like. I've heard of that as well. So that'll be interesting. So that is Heroin Diaries, A Year in the Life. That's back to the Motley Crue conversation. So yeah, any Motley Crue fans, Heroin Diaries, if there's an audiobook, I might give that a listen. I'm well into the audiobooks at the moment. I'm reading one proper book, like a real intellect, but it's mainly audiobooks at the moment.
Have you tried listening to an audiobook while reading a real book?
That's going to ruin my life. That's going to really mess my day up.
But you could do Lord of the Rings with the Andy Serkis audio. You could just read it along.
I have my own internal one. Like, so I'm good at voiceovers and shit, so I tend to do them in my head, So if I have Andy Serkis also doing Gollum, I'm pretty good at Gollum. That's going to be odd. We're going to harmonise. I don't want that.
Different twist on things, yeah.
I've got enough voices in my head. I don't need that one.
Maybe half a bottle of peanut whiskey while you're doing it will solve the problem.
Holy shit, I'm hearing it in 4D. That'd be good. I'm up for that. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Just as a quick reminder, Bristol tomorrow, the big debut, the debut. We'll see you at the Exchange Basement. Do come on down if you're in the area. We look forward to seeing you all. It's Empire of One, Regional One, and Duskwood. We will see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, we need
another one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we put on a show where it's Empire of One, Regional One, and One Last Day. That would be. We'll just call it 3.
One Brave Ones.
Really good. Brave Ones as well. Oh, 4.
And you could call it the One Show.
Yeah.
One Show. Oh shit, let's do it. All right, we'll look into that for next year. This year, rather.
Yeah, it's 2024 now.
Hell yeah! New year, new me.
Already.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a pleasure chatting with you as ever, Glenn, and everyone who's been commenting. Thank you so much.
For having
if you're
me,
watching this from the future, well done for making it this far. We're still alive. Good job. We will see you guys soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.